Hello. What up? What's going on? Thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for hanging out with us. This is CHGO Bulls, and we are brought to you by Coors Light. Make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors delivered straight to your door via Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/CHGO Basketball. Celebrate responsibly. I am Big Dave. That is Will to Go Gottlieb. Behind the board is our guy, Steven, and representing all the way out in parts unknown, a.k.a. Peck Manor, a.k.a. the house in Nish, it's our guy, Matt Peck. How are you, sir?
What's up, guys? I miss you.
Summer Peck is in full effect, and I'm so happy for you right now.
I feel like it's wrong for us to be apart during free agency, but, you know.
I feel like it's wrong for you to be the one on the screen. I feel like I'm usually calling in. You guys are here.
It's true.
The game where
I don't have my own hot talk line like you do, unfortunately.
we got to work on a graphic. We got to work on that graphic.
Got to work on that Peck Summer Peck graphic.
The Summer Peck hotline brought to you by Who Gives an F.
Oh, Miss Peck. Summer Peck is one of my favorites ever. Thank y'all for joining us and hanging out with us, man. We got a lot to get into. We got a lot to discuss. A lot of things happening in the free agency period, y'all. The Bulls did stuff. Oh, and I'm very excited that they did stuff. We're going to get into who they signed. Jalen Smith is who they signed. Patrick Williams resigns. We're also going to talk about DeMar DeRozan. Get into Andre Drummond as well. There might be some yelling on that one. But first, let us start talking about the newest signee to the Chicago Bulls, and that is Mr. Jalen Smith. Oh, signs with the Bulls. I'm very excited about that. Played 207 games. Played with the Suns is where he started. I believe he was drafted 20th, if I'm not mistaken.
10th overall.
10th overall. Shout out to that young Jalen.
Same draft as Patrick.
Also spent his best years, though, with the Pacers, 6'10", 215, power forward center out of Maryland. I'm excited about him. I like him. I knew as soon as he became a free agent, I said the Bulls are going to sign him. Why did I feel that way? Because when they played him, he actually played well against the Bulls, and the Bulls always sign someone who plays well against them. But I'm not mad at this one. I think he's really good, and he fits a lot of what the Bulls are trying to do, Will.
And he adds to their weaknesses with, his strengths. I think he's a very good three-point shooter, or at least he was last year, 42% on pretty decent volume. Mm-hmm. He is a great rebounder. He's a very efficient player. He shot like almost 70% on twos. So I think he adds some stuff. And then I think to me, what makes it a good signing is not as much like the player that he is, and we can get more into him and what he provides. But to me, it's more about what it says about the direction of the team. You bring in a young player out of your mid-level exception, which otherwise was going to be used to retain your older players like DeMar. So you're going younger. You are, basically all but getting DeMar off your roster and committing to this youth movement. You're adding floor spacing from the center spot. You're adding upside. 24 years old. He still has a chance to get better. I do think that he is maybe being a little bit overrated, but overall, I think this was like a good signing, and I like what it says about the direction of the team.
3 years, $27 million is what he signed with. That is according to Woj. Shout out to Clutch Sports. Please do other stuff with Zach LaVine as well. Matt, your feelings on young Jalen Smith, sir?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much right there with Will. I think it's a solid signing. I think it's a good value signing. He addresses their weaknesses that he mentioned: three-point shooting, defensive rebounding. I mean, we heard AK speak about the defensive rebounding thing when he was talking about drafting Buzelis, and that's one of the reasons why he liked him. Same thing with Josh Giddey. He rebounds. We need that. So that makes sense to me. The youth movement, that makes sense to me too. I I don't want to rain on the parade. I genuinely do like this signing. And I think a lot of Bulls fans were looking at Jalen Smith coming into free agency to say, we assume Drummond's going to go. Assuming that Vooch is still here, we need a new backup big. Like a lot of people were throwing Jalen Smith's name out there because it makes sense. I am a little bit scared about the 42.5% from three this past season. Why? Because the last time the Bulls brought in a big from elsewhere who had a great three-point shooting season, it was Vooch. And we all know what happened to Vooch's three-point shooting once he put on a Bulls jersey. 42.5% is a huge leap compared to what you see in Jalen Smith's previous seasons of his NBA career. He basically didn't shoot any his rookie year. His second year, I think he shot like 32, 33%. And then the season before the 23-24 season, he didn't even break 30%. Yeah. And it's also like on so volume. If you extrapolate it to per 36 minutes, because he was only a 17 minutes per game player for the Pacers last season, per 36, he got up 5 3-point attempts, and he hit it at 42.5%. Depending on the size of the role the Bulls are going to ask him to play next season and beyond, I'm great with that if that 42.5% last season is real and not a fluke.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, I think his three-point shooting is like, that's probably going to be his career high. I don't see him kind of replicating that. He does look like a shooter. His shot is good. He's like a willing shooter. Yeah. But to your point, Matt, like he was also being fed by Tyrese Halliburton, who's the best pick-and-roll passer in the game. So I think he probably ends up, like Giddey probably helps him there too. He probably ends up shooting in like the 36, 37, 38 range. And I think that'd be really good. But if you are signing this guy to be like, you know, your stretch five Porzingis type, I just don't think he's going to be there. But I also think that's okay. I mean, they're not paying him to be a max player. They're paying him to be a backup big, to replace Andre Drummond, to rebound, to block some shots. And I think they're paying him for some upside. The Bulls are investing in young players. And when you do that, you have to pay a premium in order to get that upside. And so I think he can get better. I don't think he's a perfect player. He kind of got benched in the playoffs, did not really make an impact during that Pacers Eastern Conference Finals run, but that's okay. I think he can continue to grow with the rest of this young core. He adds an element that they don't have, which is size and shooting at that size. And it wasn't like a bank-breaking move. I mean, he's going to be making $8.3 million this year, $9 million the next year, and 9.6 the year after that. That's less than 6% of the salary cap. So for a backup center, replacing Drummond, getting younger, getting more upside, I'm fine with it. I don't think it was like a home run, and I think I probably would have preferred Goga Bitadze because I think he's a truly elite rim protector. Mm-hmm. But they needed spacing. They needed a five who can, you know, just stretch the floor out and create space for guys like Kobe and Josh Giddey and provide a pick and pop threat. I think he can do that. I don't think it's going to be at an all-star level. I think it's going to be at a solid backup big level.
Yeah, and he doesn't take high volume of threes. I believe 2.4 is what he took last year. So to shoot, 42% on that is just gravy. That's kind of how I look at his three-point shooting as opposed to Vooch's, whereas I needed Vooch's to actually be a team. His is just, putting a little cherry on top if he can actually hit a couple threes because of the low volume that he takes. But it's the 60% from the field that I like. It's the 70% free throw shooting that he had last year. I believe, 10 points, 5 rebounds, basically a game in about 17 minutes in that 23-24 season. Matt, we know that basically this is the backup big for the Bulls, but there is a possibility that he could be the starting center for the Chicago Bulls. Is that something that you're comfortable with? Because, one, that would mean Vooch is gone. Yay, hooray, put down the pitchforks and torches. I'd be very excited for that. But is that something that you're actually comfortable with? Is Jalen Smith kind of sliding into that starting spot with this young team?
Yeah, if that can happen, why not? You're going with a youth movement. If AK doesn't want to use the word rebuild because he thinks it's an icky word and we're always trying to field a competitive team, I don't care what you call it. But to me, this is starting to look like a rebuild. DeMar is gone. It's just a question of where he ends up now. They're still trying to trade Zach. We'll see if that happens. I don't know if there's a deal out there for Vooch. There are a couple of teams out there in need of a big right now. Valanciunas dipped out from New Orleans. They seem to be trying to field a competitive team next season based on some of the other moves that they've made. They make the big swing for DeJounte Murray. And maybe they are a team looking to bring in a new starting caliber big. The Knicks, with Hartenstein's departure, are looking like a team that also could be in need of a big. I do also wonder if there's a part of AK who still is like, we brought in Vooch because he can be a floor spacing big man. At least he was when they traded for him, but also because they like him as a facilitator offensively. And he actually likes the idea of Vooch playing on the floor alongside Josh Giddey and some of these other new pieces that they're bringing in. So I could see it playing out both ways. I could see the Bulls not loving any offers that they get for Vooch, if there are any at all, and saying, all right, Vooch is still our starting center, and we're going to play Jalen Smith off the bench. But hopefully sizable minutes off the bench. Like, I think the only way I would be disappointed is this if they bring in this guy who's, freshly 24 years old on a new deal and then barely play him. Bulls fans were upset about that with Drummond and his minutes. I think it would make even less sense given the youth movement that we're all seeing play out here when you bring in a guy who's 24 and don't play him.
Makes a lot of sense. And you like to say you want the Bulls to get guys who are young with upside. And it feels like Jalen Smith, not just because of the age, but that's one of the reasons why you kind of see the upside in this young man. And, of course, I love a motor, and he's definitely got that too. But he's got a nice IQ as well on him, man. I'd like the upside on him.
I think he just provides you a little bit more defensive versatility. Like, I think he can move his feet a little bit, switch on the perimeter. I think he can slide over and protect the rim. I just think he's like a good bet to make. And I think that's kind of where the Bulls are. They're clearly not trying to like completely bottom out, right? They want to get younger and build from like kind of already, like, instead of prioritizing picks, they're prioritizing young players that have upside. And so that's what they are collecting right now, while everybody else either collects picks or veterans. I think it's a marketplace that is kind of, it's a smart way to do things. The problem is it just puts you in a situation where you kind of run the risk of losing this pick. And I think that still has to be the priority, but I don't think Jalen Smith is going to be the difference between the Bulls being the, 6th worst team versus the 11th worst team. So I think it's a good bet to make. And look, I mean, I think they're going to be shopping Vooch. I don't think he's going to be number one priority for them to get rid of. I still think that's Zach. Maybe Lonzo, as Chris Haynes reported, is another guy that they're looking to dump. To me, I don't really understand why they would do that. I would let DeMar walk if I needed to, and then I would just eat those contracts until you can try to trade them for positive value. The Bulls are in no rush, and I don't think like Vooch or Zach is going to be the difference between being the 11th worst team and the 6th worst team. But at a certain point, they do have to be kind of concerned about that. And so maybe you trade them at the deadline. But like, they're selling from a position of these guys are at the absolute lowest value. And so why rush to that? Why attach picks to that when you don't have to? It's not like you need to dump money in order to keep DeMar, because they're clearly going young. They're clearly moving on from DeMar. So why force the issue?
Yeah, got to keep it moving. Our guy Jeff Rock says Jalen Smith is unplayable. He makes Nikola Vucevic look like Nikola Jokic. This is a big win for Team Tank. A couple other people in the chat saying this is a really great signing for the Bulls. So I like the signing. I like the young man. I think he can play. I think he fits in. But my question now is does this mean Sanogo? If they get rid of Vooch, does that mean Sanogo moves up, Will, or do you go get another center?
Well, Sanogo is I believe they tendered the qualifying offer, so he is a restricted free agent right now. Correct. We'll see if they re-sign him or if another team makes an offer.
Yeah,
I would imagine he's going to be like, the Bulls already have 14 roster spots. If they let DeMar walk for nothing, they could still fully non-guarantee Batum and remove him, so they could have a little bit more space. But my guess is that he would be back on a two-way, and so he'll get some minutes here and there. He'll probably play a little bit more next year than he did last year, but I don't necessarily expect him to be part of the rotation right away unless, Vooch is gone and they really have to kind of scramble there for backup center minutes.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we definitely want to talk about DeMar and Andre Drummond, and I definitely want to get into Patrick Williams. So we're going to take a quick pause for the calls.
Today's show brought to you by our friends at Coors Light. Between work, social media, NBA free agency, stress, and just all of the choices life throws our way, it's no wonder we can be worked up sometimes. Coors Light celebrates rising above those moments of noise and stress and choosing to have a chill mindset. That's what I've been doing since I got up here to Mitch. Why not turn a rained out barbecue into a cool indoor karaoke bonanza party at the Goat's house? Date TBD later this summer. Or, after a tough loss, settle the score with an ice-cold peace offering. Make the choice to choose chill. Then after you've made that choice for yourself, the first thing you should do is reach for an icy cold Coors Light, just like the one I got right here. Oh, and when those mountains are blue, you know it's as cold as the Colorado Rockies inside that bottle or that can. Coors Light is cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged for a smooth finish. Coors Light is mountain cold refreshment by definition. Crisp and refreshing as the Colorado Rockies themselves. Make the most out of the times you choose to chill and then choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart. All you got to do is go to CoorsLight.com/CHGO basketball. That's CoorsLight.com/CHGO basketball. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Celebrate responsibly, y'all.
This ad is Baby Joey approved. Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades that are built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have got you covered with those premium polarized shades that will not break the bank. Shady Rays, that independent sunglasses company, offering that world-class product, and it's rated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars for over 300,000 people. Their shades have those durable frames, those crystal clear optics, making it the perfect choice for your outdoor. And let's see if he proves it all the way on the Michigan now. Your indoor adventure. Oh, look at him, ladies and gentlemen. He's amazing. Oh, they have hundreds of options to choose from. So you are bound to find the perfect pair to match your style, like the GOAT is doing over here, y'all. And they probably have a style that fits your favorite team colors. Hello. So exclusive for our listeners out there, Shady Rays is giving away their best deal of the season. Head to ShadyRays.com. Use that code CHGO. Get yourself 35% off of those premium polarized shades. Try for yourself. Oh, the shades that are rated 5 stars for over 300,000 people. Because the Shady Rays, y'all, where them rays are just, oh, so shady. Ah, that felt good. All the way from Mish. Look how happy Matt is. That just makes me happy seeing how happy he is. Like, yeah, the joy.
Cannot be happy here, buddy.
It's awesome, man. All right.
I just taught my niece how to throw and catch a football in the park. Like, I'm golden.
Life is good. It's not bad at all, man. Not bad at all. And he's got a cold Coors Light. Like, yeah, life is pretty cool. I like it. Here comes Jim. As soon as I say an ad, there goes Jim walking over. As soon as I say an ad. You're programmed. You're programmed, sir, and I like it. Shout out to you, my friend. Oh, man. There was some other big signings that also happened on this NBA trade start. This free agent frenzy. The biggest domino to fall, y'all, was Paul George as he left the Clippers and signed that 4-year, $212 million deal to be with the Philadelphia 76ers. And in return, the Clippers said, well, we're going to go get former Bull Derrick Jones Jr., give that man $10 million a year for 3 years. That's $30 million for you math people out there. The question is that sign and trade to the Clippers still feasible? Because they not only got Derrick Jones Jr., but they also went and got Nicholas Batum as well. Mm-hmm. So it kind of feels like the door might be shut on that one, Will.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky. I think there are some ways that they can still do it. And obviously there's been some reporting today, I believe from Joe Colley, saying that like the DeMar era is over. He's going to sign elsewhere. But it just feels like his marketplace is kind of drying up. And so trying to like game out what the options are, the Clippers are basically at the tax line as it is. So in order for that to work, it would need to be a sign and trade. And, you know, depending on what DeMar's willing to sign for, the Clippers would have to send that much salary back. Now, the Bulls, after signing Jalen Smith, are $13 million below the luxury tax. And we know that's their hard cap. They're not going to exceed that, which means in a sign and trade, they can only take back an additional $13 million before they go into the luxury tax. They, of course, could add more salary into that deal. Let's say Javon Carter, that opens up $19 million. So maybe it's, you know, Javon Carter and DeMar for Norman Powell. That would work out in terms of the cap. But for the Bulls, it's like that's not money they need to spend. They are putting themselves up against the luxury tax. They're taking in a salary they don't really want. They would need a pick in order to do that. And I just wonder whether some of these teams, whether it's the Lakers, the Clippers, are going to be interested in sending out a pick in order to get DeMar via sign and trade. It might make more sense for them to save that pick, save those players to package for, you know, a better player, a younger player at the trade deadline, or just, you know, out there on another team. So I'm having a hard time determining where DeMar ends up. I know the Clippers have been kind of like the primary landing spot. It seems kind of unlikely given where the Bulls are. Still possible. I think the Lakers are another option. We'll see how that works out. LeBron will basically have to take a pay cut. That would open up the mid-level exception. DeMar could walk into that, but that's a huge pay cut based on the $40 million that we were talking about 2 months ago. So would he be willing to sign for that? Maybe for the Lakers, who knows? They could also do a sign and trade. But again, the $13 million below the luxury tax, that's the most the Bulls could bring back. And they're going to need picks in order to facilitate that. I wonder if DeMar is the guy that's worth giving up those picks for.
Matt, Will just broke it down how a sign and trade could happen and how that could, work for the Bulls and kind of fit. But talk to me about the actual basketball fit on the Clippers, because it just doesn't feel like that fit can happen anymore. Or am I crazy?
Well, I mean, they make those other two additions you noted, DJJ and Batum. DeMar is a more valuable player than either of them, but they were clearly players that the Clippers targeted because they thought that those were the right pieces to put around Kawhi and Harden, their two remaining stars. They locked up Harden on a new deal before free agency really even opened. I do not really see a great fit for DeMar with the Clippers. The funny thing is I also don't really see him as a great fit with the Lakers, but that might not stop LeBron from deciding that he does, after all, want to play with DeMar. I think there was at least one mention of a report on some podcast or some NBA show of Windhorst talking about DeRozan's name being added to the list of previous names that LeBron said, I'm willing to take a pay cut if it's one of these guys you bring to the Lakers to come help us win. At some point earlier today, I believe I saw Windhorst added DeRozan's name to that list of pre-approved names for LeBron James to come help me and AD try to get this chip here. I think maybe at this point the Lakers are actually a bit better of a fit than the Clippers, but neither is a great fit for DeRozan and his game. But he's a vet who can get you clutch buckets. And I think either the Clippers or the Lakers would be happy to bring in a player like that. It's just a matter of how they go about doing that with their salary cap tap dancing and their luxury tax tap dancing. From the Bulls' perspective, I don't even know if they still are trying to talk to either of those LA teams to facilitate some sort of sign and trade. Based on Will's reporting, I feel like it's getting harder and harder for either of those situations to play out where the Bulls walk away from this loss of DeMar DeRozan with something instead of nothing. And if you're a Bulls fan, that's the part that frustrates you. If that's what ends up happening is DeRozan just signs on a mid-level or a biannual, wherever it is, or a portion of one of those, or a veteran minimum even. I don't think that would happen. But either way, I believe Cowley when he said, DeMar's gone. Look at what the Bulls have now on their books. He's not coming back. You hope they get something for him. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't.
And Jake Fisher literally just dropped a column from Yahoo Sports, also linking DeRozan to the Lakers. He says the Lakers, sources said, still hold an affinity for veteran scorer DeMar DeRozan after Los Angeles finished as the runner-up for Klay Thompson. And I agree with you, Matt. I just think it's a little complex. But I also think at this point, in order to work this sign and trade out, it is going to require the Bulls to take on more bad salary. And I wonder, is a second-round pick worth it? I mean, maybe it's somebody you can flip. If it's D'Angelo Russell, that puts you into the tax. Maybe you dump Javon Carter somehow. But, is all of that trouble worth a second-round pick? I would probably say no. If you can get a first-round pick for it, sure. But that's going to be really far down the line. And I just think it's going to require some other moves to be made that facilitate it. So maybe that's why we're hearing reports of the Bulls looking to dump LaVine and Lonzo. Obviously, we know that's already the case, but it just helps them be able to take back more money in a sign and trade for DeRozan, which then in turn allows them to get an additional asset for him. So I think that makes sense, but it's not going to be like a one-step fix. Yeah. It's going to require, I think, a couple of different actions for the Bulls to take, and that's fine. It's just it's not going to just get solved right away. So I'm curious to see. I think the Lakers make a lot of sense for DeMar. As we know, he's the ultimate regular season floor raiser. He's going to allow guys like Anthony Davis and LeBron to not necessarily be healthy every game, and they're still going to be able to maintain a status in the Western Conference because of how good DeMar is. So I think at this point, he's probably going to be underpaid relative to what he should be getting. It's also going to be way less than what the Bulls were reportedly offering him. But I think this is kind of the situation that he was in 2020 or 2021 rather, when he ended up with the Bulls. There was not a big market for him. He was thinking about going to the Lakers, the Clippers on the mid-level exception. That option did not appeal to him. All of a sudden, Bulls come out of nowhere and offer him, 2.5 times the next closest offer, and they had to give up a first-round pick to do so. I think 3 years later, DeMar's 35 years old. It just doesn't seem like that big offer sheet is going to be out there for him, and that's fine. But I think it's like a tough pill to swallow for his ego to be like, okay, now I got to play for the tax MLE or the mid-level exception. That's just not enough, I think, for DeMar. So maybe, he kind of forces his hand a little bit, and that gets the Bulls an asset, but it also will require the Bulls to take back a lot of bad salary, which of course they don't want.
Yeah, I refuse to believe the Lakers don't sign DeMar, and it has nothing to do with the Bulls or DeMar. For me, it has to do with the Lakers have to get a name, and they have to do that every year. Like you said, they lost out on Klay Thompson. There is no bigger name out there, I think, than DeMar DeRozan, and there's a want and a desire for both of them, for him to want to play in L.A. So I don't think that they're going to go out of this free agency without getting a name. So you might as well get a guy like DeMar DeRozan, who, Matt is correct, the fit isn't there like that, but that dude is still DeMar DeRozan, and he's going home. So that's a different kind of mindset that he might be playing with when he's there. But I don't see the Lakers not making a splash and taking a guy like DeMar DeRozan. There was another deal that happened that Bulls fans had some thoughts about. That was Andre Drummond signing a 2-year deal worth $10 million, also with the Philadelphia 76ers. As we all know, the Bulls were offered 3 second-round picks at the deadline for young Andre Drummond, and we all thought that they should take it. They did not do that. Summer Peck, I need you to kind of tap into Bulls Peck a little bit and tell me your thoughts on them getting Andre Drummond and the Bulls basically getting nothing.
Well, first of all, let me just say, I really appreciated the fact that Goat put out that tweet saying how much he enjoyed covering Drummond over the last couple of seasons. By all accounts, the guy was a great, not only player and teammate, but a great person. One of those athletes who, treats the media well, understands and respects their job, and has an appreciation for them. And also is someone who is willing to speak openly and on the record about his own battles with mental health and, and going to therapy and all that stuff. Like, we can never have too many professional athletes in this country who step up and talk about that stuff. And Drummond is one of them. And you have to appreciate him for that. Did I go dig up the clip of him and Torrey Craig's failed alley-oop and post it to our team account? Yeah, I did, because it was funny and I had to. RIP the Drummond experience. That's part of it too. So there's good and bad with Drummond on the court, but I think only good with Drummond off the court. And I wish him nothing but the best in Philly. Go contend for a championship. Yeah. From a Bulls fan's perspective on watching him walk away for nothing, it ticked me off. I'm still ticked off about it. I'm going to choose chill and have another sip of this Coors Light in a second. But it is absurd to me when you think about the fact that they had that offer and 3 second-round picks ain't nothing. Because maybe you hit on one of them, and you hit on one of them in the way you hit on Ayo Dosunmu. Or, Daniel Gafford. Yeah, the Bulls traded him away, but that's a second-round pick. My sweet special boy, Julian Phillips, who I still have gigantic hopes for, second-round pick. Tony Kukoc, second-round pick. They have value. And the Bulls said, no thanks, we're really trying to get that 9 seed. And again, I don't want to go all the way into the depths of that conversation, along Goat's reporting from a few weeks ago about a mandate from ownership to push for the playoffs. And maybe that is why not only did they not trade Caruso at the deadline, but they did not take that deal for Drummond at the deadline. Yeah, it pisses me off. It should piss off every Bulls fan out there that we just watched Drummond say, thanks, Chicago. Had a great time. Love y'all. Bye. And we're sitting here with 3 fewer picks than we could have had. It's dumb. It's dumb. It's mismanagement. It's malpractice. And we should be pissed about it.
Well, I'm going to get your thoughts after this, man. Thank you, Summer Peck. We're going to take a quick pause for the calls. You want to feel like Summer Peck? Let me get you some Sunnyside. Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place where all kinds of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality hydroponics in the city. Summerside has everything you need to elevate your summer. It's your one-stop shop for all your cannabis needs. Sunnyside has expertly curated menu with over 100 strains to choose from, plus easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Sunnyside is Illinois' favorite dispensary, with locations in the city like Wrigleyville and River North, to the suburbs like Champaign, South Beloit, and much more. So if you're here for the summer, and the summer is good news, y'all, the Tea Time disposable vape bringing classic lemonade flavor. That's perfect, and I mean perfect, for your course. Could be golf, could be anyone, but it's perfect for you because we all need a little help staying loose on the green. Head to Sunnyside.shop and use the code HICHGO. And at checkout, you'll get 35% off your favorite brands like Cresco, Good News, and more to elevate your first purchase. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, bright buys every day for 21 and over or Illinois Met card holders.
If y'all haven't signed up to become a CHGO diehard yet, now's the time. There are always fun events on deck. We just had the Cubs road trip up to Wrigley North. Sidebar, shout out. Hope everyone who got, caught up in that crazy escalator thing is healing nicely. Braggs, Moriano, and others. But that wasn't, the only thing that happened. They also had a fun time tailgating and taking a party bus up to Milwaukee and watching a Cubs win on the road in the Brewer Stadium. So that is just the latest example of all the fun events that you can get discounts for when you sign up to become a CHGO diehard, along, of course, with the 20% discount every time you shop at that CHGO merch locker. All of those dope designs, new stuff. CHGO Hawks just dropped a brand new T-shirt honoring the Hall of Fame induction of Jeremy Roenick, legend. Go cop that one. Pick any shirt you want because you get a free one when you sign up to become a diehard. And then, of course, the Discord's only diehard channels, one for every Chicago team, for chatting with your fellow Chicago diehards and maybe avoiding some of the crazies that exist out there on Twitter. And most importantly, the best of the best when it comes to our content from our credentialed and quality, primo quality, reporters and journalists like our very own Willie Go Gottlieb here. All of his draft stuff, the best of it was behind that diehard paywall. And of course, with a fresh Bear season right around the corner, you want the best of the best from Moriano, from Hogue, from that whole crew on CHGO Bears. Plenty of reasons to sign up to become a CHGO diehard right now. Now's the time. Don't wait another day. It's pennies a day to become an annual member at CHGO diehard. And you can find plenty of people telling you to do the same because they've done it and they do not regret the choice. Become a diehard today!
Two things I want to say right now. One, there's over 460 people watching live with us. Shout out to you. Appreciate you being here. But there are 80 likes. I need you to get those likes up, people. Show us your love. Show us your affection and hit that thumbs up for our guy Steven over there. Because he likes thumbs too. He's just like Troll Joe. He hangs out with Troll Joe a couple times.
I don't have the fancy Troll Joey graphic, but I also like the thumbs, please.
See, he likes thumbs, but it doesn't matter. He likes thumbs. Hit that thumbs up, y'all. Thank y'all for hanging out with us. Second thing, Steven, can you bring up what Devo, the Black Panther, just said? I got our guy, Matt Peck, right there. Somebody please tell Matt to throw his hat before his head blows off. This guy is the living embodiment of Bruce Banner trying to contain the Hulk. Oh, that's what Summer Peck is. That's Bruce Banner. And there it is. The hat is gone, ladies and gents.
Summer Peck is like, I don't remember which Hulk movie this was, or maybe it was Thor or something.
Okay.
But Banner is the Hulk. He's like evolved into a Hulk that he can like maintain, but he still goes rage all the time.
Yes.
He's like halfway there. That's Summer Peck. That's Summer Peck.
Just going to the
That's
diner.
the extent of my Marvel knowledge. Thank you very much for coming to my TED Talk.
I was about to nerd out on you too for a second, but we got to show this. Well, so,
clearly, I don't know what I'm talking about.
But you're there. You're in the ballpark.
I'm in the ballpark.
He's in the park, and that's all that matters to me, man.
There's a hat-shaped hole in Peck's wall. God, I love that comment.
Yes, absolutely, man. Oh, man. Will, your thoughts, I want to get your thoughts on Andre Drummond, his 2-year, $10 million deal with Philly.
So I think you first got to start with missed opportunities. Same thing with Caruso. Same thing with DeMar. I mean, and you can even look at Vooch this lens too. Nobody is lining up to offer DeMar, who the Bulls were reportedly willing to offer $40 million a year. Yeah. Nobody is lining up to offer him more than it seems like the mid-level exception. Now, I'm not saying he won't get more than that. Some things happen. Maybe a sign and trade takes place. Who knows? But you have to learn from your mistakes. They gave Vooch an extension worth $20 million a year. Nobody else was going to touch anything close to that. And they did. And now they're stuck with that contract because it does not seem like they're going to be able to get off of it for positive value. It's the same thing with Caruso and Drummond. You miss on opportunities to collect real assets for them at the trade deadline to make a play and push. Obviously, we know how that went, but you cannot keep like failing to not learn from your mistakes. They continue to do the same things. It's going to dig the hole that they're in even deeper. So I appreciate the fact that they at least moved off of Drummond. He has a chance now to go compete for a championship. I loved his tweet. He was like, I'm ready for some Philly cheesesteaks to like break the news. Great for Andre. Like he was, I wasn't just like saying that. He really was so fun to cover. Really goofy guy, very like interesting character. Like sometimes he'd just be like really locked into his phone, didn't want to talk to anybody. But as soon as you went up to him, he would like light up because he just like loves talking basketball, loves talking with people. He's always like on the phone with his family. He just seems like a really great guy, and he was just a great person to cover. So we'll miss him from that perspective, but I think it makes sense for where the Bulls are. You pay more to bring in a younger player who has a little bit more upside, maybe. Obviously, like his rebounding was some of the best of all time. Yeah. You've got to recover from that, but that's okay. Like the Bulls don't have to like solve all their problems right now. If they're trying to be bad anyway, it's okay to be bad in some ways. So I'm fine with that. I think it was a smart move to bring in Jalen Smith and let Andre go compete for a championship, which he will have a chance to do with Philadelphia. That team is stacked. Yeah. So the moral of the story is, though, you need to keep learning your lessons and not making the same mistakes over and over again. And even though like second round picks are not as valuable as first round picks, they can still matter. We saw OKC trade 5 second round picks for the 26th pick in this draft. If you're a rebuilding team and you have 5 second round picks and you have a chance to buy into the first round, that's a great opportunity. Yeah. Or maybe you attach some second round picks as filler or as, an asset to go along with Zach LaVine to be able to move off of him. So just because these picks are a crapshoot doesn't mean that they're not valuable. Even if they're not valuable to you, they can be valuable to someone else. You've got to be able to like play the game in order to do this business. And I really hope that AK has learned from that lesson, because with Drummond and Caruso specifically, who were like the most recent examples, that was a complete miss, and they cannot let that happen again.
No, they can't. I tell you, Andre Drummond, and I said it on this show when they signed him, I wasn't over the moon about it, because I know what Andre Drummond is, and I never equated him with a winning player. I was like, yeah, he'll get you the rebounds, he'll do all those things, but he's gonna do something to be like, what the hell are you doing, Andre Drummond? I will say I gained more respect for him while he was here in his game, because the stretches he had when he was just on was just unbelievable. Going to that game and seeing it live when they played the Hawks the day after Christmas, and I think he had like 23 rebounds and 20 points, was just unbelievable. He was the best player on the floor. Like, he was dominating them in a way I never really seen a backup kind of do. And I just had a new respect for him as a man. Like Matt mentioned before, how he talked about those mental health issues. Will, you talked about that's how he lights up around people, just how he was a joy to talk to, how he was a joy. I saw the video of him talking to young players, telling them quit taking this stuff for granted, because you don't know what kind of contract you're going to end up with. You can end up with nothing very easily, and he didn't want them to be in his position. So I gained new respect for Drummond, but he still would do those Drummond things while he was here, trying to cross over, go behind his back, and airballing layups like he was a young Denzel Valentine. It was something to behold sometimes when he would do those things, but it just became part of it, and I just started accepting it when he would do it, and we would be watching the game, and I would just laugh and say, well, that's Drummond. That's all right. It's okay. It's Andre Drummond. Yeah, he was a joy. I definitely thought they should have made that trade at the deadline, because you have to leave with something. We all knew he was not staying, and you have to leave with something. And then the fact that you keep him for that run and he gets injured and you still can't use him at his full strength for that run, it just played out very bad. And you're right, Will. I hope they learned their lesson, but I wish him all the best. I'm glad he got this contract that he got. And he's just a great guy. So wish him all the best in Philly. He's played there before. Hopefully it works out for him again. But let's move on. Let's talk about
Actually, real quick before, sorry,
stuff.
I just want to go back to the DeMar
on,
thing for a second, because I was reading more from this story, and there was another angle that I thought was interesting.
Okay.
So this is, again, in regards to a DeMar DeRozan sign and trade with the Lakers.
Okay.
So Jake Fisher, the report that I just indicated from, said that there was interest from the Lakers end in DeRozan. And so at the bottom of the story, he writes, how the Lakers recover from losing Thompson will be a fascinating subplot in its own right, while LeBron James has indicated a willingness to take less salary, sources said, in order to help the Lakers add more talent to a roster that fell in the first round of the playoffs. Time seems to be running out for how long James is willing to wait before securing his next deal. For the Lakers to bring in DeRozan, Los Angeles may have to work with a third team to offload some salary, such as D'Angelo Russell or Gabe Vincent, sources said. The Nets have been open to welcoming Russell back to Barclays Center since his past trade deadline, sources said. So that could be a way that this thing works, where the Bulls don't end up having to take salary. I don't know if there would be something that like they get kickback in that deal, but like to me, that would be a pick going to the Nets in order to take on D'Angelo Russell, maybe a second or a pair of seconds going to the Bulls not taking any salary back, and DeRozan getting the contract he wants at the team he wants. So that makes a lot of sense to me. But again, it would take a third team, I think, to do that. And it just comes down to the question of like, are the Lakers really willing to send out a first and 2 seconds in order to get DeMar DeRozan? I'm not sure.
To borrow a phrase from Matt Pegg, hey, AK, get on the phone. Pick it up. Call somebody.
Stop breaking the law, asshole!
Yes, man. They've got to do it, man. They've got to do something. We'll come back to that because I do want to add something back, but I do want to talk about Patrick Williams while we got some time, because that I'm just going to give AK and Eversley one of these right here. I'm going to give them some applause for the signing of one young Patrick Williams. As Shams reported, Patrick Williams intends to sign the 5-year, $90 million deal to return to the Chicago Bulls, lead sources tell The Athletic, and of course the world-famous Bulls player option for the 5th year for young Patrick Williams. William, I'm going to leave the contract breakdown for you, sir, but please tell me why this is awesome, because I feel it's awesome. They signed for 5 years and $90 million. We talked $100 million a lot while we were talking about re-signing Patrick. So getting him for 5 years and 90 feels like a steal to me.
It does. And look, the Bulls were reportedly in the ballpark of $16 million with him in negotiations last summer. I think he wanted 20 or 22. So they weren't too far off. And obviously with the injury that he sustained, cutting his season short, I think they were able to get him at a bit of a discount. But again, when you are entering a retooling around some of the younger players, you want to call it a rebuild, you want to call it a teardown, whatever you want to call it, this is now focused around the younger players. You don't let those guys walk. So even though Patrick has not necessarily been the Kawhi carbon copy that I think everybody would have hoped, they're not paying him to be that. They're paying him role player money in the NBA. This is going to be slightly more than the mid-level exception. It's not going to be this Jason Tatum 5-year, $315 million supermax that he just signed moments ago. This is role player money. This is Dorian Finney-Smith money. And I think Patrick can pretty safely get to that level as a player. He's already a good defender. He's already a good three-point shooter. So I think this is a really nice contract for him. They probably had some intel, I'm guessing here, that other teams were going to offer him as much or more. And so to get this done before you reach restricted free agency, you don't have to worry about a Charlotte, a Detroit coming in with a big offer sheet that you have to match and not feel as good about. You get something done. And I think it's a really manageable number. Again, it does feel like a lot of money, but as the cap rises, this is not going to break the bank. Basically, this is going to be 11% of the cap next year, and it's descending. So 10.8% of the cap the second year, 10.6, 10.3, and then 10% of the cap. That's a great number for a starter. And I think this is just like the way that the NBA is going. This money is going to get more and more outrageous. But the way that these contracts works is every year you get 8% raises. So if you sign a 5-year contract, you start at a certain number and you get 8% on top of that. But it's not 8% every single year. That interest doesn't compound. It's just 8% of the original number. So if he signed, a $100 million contract, you get $8 million added to his salary each year. But the NBA salary cap is going up by 10% each year. So that's a bigger number than 8, obviously. It's going up at a faster rate. But those raises on the cap actually do compound. So in the first year, if the cap was 100 million, you get 10 million tacked onto that. And then you'd have 10% of 110 million, which is 11 million tacked onto that. And so that grows at an even more fast rate. And I just think that when you're going into a rebuild around your younger players, you want to get those guys on contracts that they can grow into and eventually exceed in value. And I think even if Patrick doesn't like make great strides, this is going to be a movable contract. It's going to be a contract he can exceed, and hopefully he exceeds it by a lot and becomes a star player. And he's now making a bargain amount of money. So I think the 5 years helps. You could even look at this as a 4-year, $70 million contract, because I think there's a good chance he opts out and gets even more money in that final year. I just think this was a smart play, and I like the way that they did it in terms of getting it done before he had a chance to get even more money from the Hornets or the Pistons.
Matt Peck, your thoughts on signing Patrick Williams and the contract he signed?
Yeah, well, before my thoughts, I love Bulls Nation and the constant examples of the dichotomy. Anthony saying, terrible deal, come on, what has Pat done to improve over 4 years? Rob saying, wild celebrations on P-Will Island, we're partying over here. Fish also bring up a good point. 5 years of Pat is a long time to decide what to do with Pat, regardless of him taking a leap or not. Like you were saying, Will, certainly at least 4 years of team control, even if he declines out of that fifth-year player option. I was saying the whole time as we were wondering what the heck was going to happen with Pat, the Bulls, and his contract negotiations, if it's in that 15 to 20 average annual salary range, I'd be okay with it, because I think that is value. And you brought up a couple of decent player comps in your column about Pat's contract, McDaniels, Devin Vassell, who are getting significantly more to be a good role player on an NBA team. I saw somebody in the comments earlier saying, like, dude, like 10 million per, come on, or more than that. Like MJ didn't make that at the beginning of his career. Cool. Also, MJ was making salaries from the 1980s. It's 2024, and because of Michael Jeffrey Jordan and a few other reasons, the NBA salary cap has skyrocketed over the last 4 decades of basketball. Shout out to everybody who has fought for these big contracts from the NBA Players Association. 5 years, 90? That is good value for a player of Patrick Williams' caliber, even if it's just the version of Pat we've seen through his first 4 NBA seasons. The one hang-up, and I'm sure you are hung up on it too, Dave, and you mentioned it in your column as well, Will, is he healthy? Right now, will he be healthy when training camp rolls around in a couple of months? Because we have seen Patrick Williams miss essentially 1.5 of his first 4 NBA seasons. If he is healthy, this is a fantastic contract. And that's coming from someone who said on a show like a week or two ago, I have never felt less confident and lower on Patrick Williams in my tenure of Bulls fandom overlapping with his tenure as a Chicago Bull than I had as we ended the season with his season-ending surgery before his performance on the court this season. I was at an all-time low on Pat. I still kind of am right now. And even still, if you can't see that this is a value contract in today's NBA, we're talking about 11, 10.5, and 10% of this team's salary cap over the next 5 years for a player like Patrick Williams. That is a steal.
Yeah, it's definitely a steal. Like, I don't see it any other kind of way. And I got to give AK his credit and Eversley and all them their credit on the young guys' contracts that they have signed. They've all been value contracts that they have signed for these young guys with the ability to be even better value if they play to the potential that at least I think that they are, like Kobe, Ayo, and now Patrick. But Matt, you're right, and Will, you're right. The health is what it's all about. I also think the health is the reason they were allowed to kind of sign this kind of contract with Patrick Williams, because I think if he played all season long and just had a regular, you know what I'm saying, like he did the season previously, he just had a regular year, I think he would have got $100 million. I really do. But I think him being injured again, he feels like he kind of has stuff he still has to prove. And one, he likes being here. He likes being around Kobe. You know, that relationship has been talked about a lot. And, of course, you know, he and Ayo have some love as well. But I kind of feel like he owes it to himself first, and he kind of owes it to the Bulls second to show and prove, and especially this year. because this is the year I had marked down where I'm like, okay, Pat, this is the year I got you marked down. I've always had him for this year. If you don't see it this year, you won't hear me talk about it ever again. You won't hear me discuss it as far as Patrick Williams and his potential and this 20 points, 8 rebounds, you know what I'm saying, few assists guy who's shooting this high volume from the three-point line. If DeMar DeRozan leaves and he moves into that 3 slot and he doesn't do great, that removes that ideology right there, because that's another one that Bulls fans bring up, including myself, because I just want to see it. I just want to see him maintain at the 3 for just, a week. Let me see what he looks like. And then if it looks the same, then I won't talk about it again. So for me, it's about removing those questions, taking away certain things. And how people continue to say those things about Justin Fields, or at least myself. Like, oh, no, he needs this. Oh, no, he needs this. Oh, no, he needs this. And then when he got it all and he was still the same. Or even Jay Cutler got it all and he was still the same player, then you can move it. This is what it is for Patrick Williams. And I think that injury is why he was allowed to sign that deal. But I do think it was a steal of a deal because I got high hopes for him.
Yeah, and look, I understand why it's a lot of money. Like, and there's been some criticism about this deal. I don't think it's been like universally thought of to be like a great deal. I don't think it comes without risk. Obviously, you have the health concern. Obviously, he has underperformed. But I agree with you that you don't get this deal done if he had played a lot better. And even still, I think this is going to be a movable contract. Guys like him, again, even if you are just a big wing defender who shoots the 3 ball at a 40% clip, you're getting interest around the league. Like this is going to be a movable deal. And so I think it makes sense from that perspective. Could they have, gotten it down a little bit further? I think Obi Toppin signed for like $460 or something like that. Yeah, they probably could have, or maybe they, could have gotten a better deal in restricted free agency if nobody else came along. But at the same time, you also run the risk of somebody giving him even more. So I don't have a problem with this. I'm not saying that he has performed to this level yet, but I expect him to as they get younger. And that's the other thing with this is that was their first signing of free agency. You trade Caruso, a 30-year-old, for Josh Giddey, a 21-year-old. You draft a 19-year-old in Modest Buzelis over a 22-year-old in Devin Carter who could have helped you now, or a 23-year-old in Dalton Connect who could have helped you now. And then your first thing ahead of, potentially extending DeRozan is to sign Patrick Williams. I like what this says about the direction of the team. And I think it gives him more opportunity to be on the ball. And I don't think he has necessarily earned that to this point, but that's the opportunity that we've all been waiting to see. And so I think that's what they're going to have to be looking at now. The other thing is, a lot of teams, especially in this new CBA, are trying to build with 2 max players and then role players, or they're trying to build with 3 star players and navigate the aprons and bring in veteran minimum guys like the Suns. The Bulls are not building that way, and I don't think this is like the complete version of what they will end up looking like, but they've got a bunch of $10 to $15 million guys, and that's an interesting case study for how to build a team in this new CBA world. Eventually they will move on from Zach LaVine and bring in a different star player, whether it's, extending Kobe on a big number or bringing somebody in via free agency. But I think this is the approach that AK took when he put the team together, with Lonzo making $20 million, Vooch making $20 million. Zach was on 18 still. You had DeMar at 28. Like, those are smaller chunks that allow you to build with depth. And that, I think, it's just a different approach from what other people are doing, and we'll see if it can work this time around.
Matt, final thoughts on young Patrick, sir?
Yeah, well, just going off of Jamie's comment saying, I think it's too long of a contract. If he's a bust, you're stuck with it, just like Zach and Vooch. Well, first of all, we already know that Patrick Williams is not a bust. Is he less than Bulls fans hoped for as a number 4 overall pick? Yes, unquestionably so. That doesn't mean he's a bust. I mean, that's just a disrespectful terminology for someone who has played NBA basketball the way Patrick Williams has. And again, I'm saying I want more from Pat, but he's not a bust. And this contract will be easily tradable at any point in time from year 1 to year 5 if he picks that option up, way more so than Zach and Vooch's contracts. He's a young player on a cheap, team-friendly deal. That's not an untradeable contract. The only way that it will become untradeable, and maybe not even then, is if he has a Lonzo Ball-esque duration of injury. But, knock on wood, we don't think that's the case. We're hoping that he is repairing himself from his offseason surgery as we speak and will be ready to play. I still want more from Pat. He's got something to prove. He should earn this contract in the years that he is on it. I am, I'm lukewarm on Pat right now. But as Goat was saying, with the timeline that AK has shifted to here, keeping him made way more sense than letting him go, and keeping him on a deal before letting him test those restricted free agent waters, I agree also made more sense because he could have gotten a bigger offer than this out there.
That's true. We got a few minutes left. Steven, tell us what they're talking about.
Well, first off, have we seen the Jason Tatum deal?
Please tell me about it.
It is 5 years for an estimated $315 million, the NBA's richest contract ever.
With no left hand. Give your kids a basketball now. Shout out Jalen. Man, that is awesome.
No, that's Tatum.
Oh, still shout out to him because that's still awesome.
Yeah, that's $60 million plus a year.
I was going to say, that's an average annual salary of like $63 million.
Wow.
And Patrick's making 15.
Well, when you put it like that, it sounds like a bargain.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Patrick doesn't have to be a superstar for this to be a good contract. Wow. I think it already is a good one. Another free agent, Bomb from Woj, my guy, Goga Badatse, returning to the Orlando Magic on a 3-year, $25 million deal.
I'm sorry, Will.
I think I would have preferred that to Jalen Smith for 3 for $27. I mean, obviously it's cheaper. He's not a shooter.
Yeah.
But I just think he has better potential as a rim protector.
Okay.
It is what it is.
So just real quick, because we're on Orlando, that's one of the handful of teams that had cap space this summer. Mm-hmm. I didn't hear a whole lot of Orlando interested in Zach talk at any point. But I mean, what do we think with Zach? Are the Bulls stuck with him? Are they going to convince him to not be a cranky, disgruntled clutch client and come to training camp? Because Pistons, nope, they brought in Tobias Harris. Warriors said, no thanks, we'd rather just waive Chris Paul than do the Chris Paul and Wiggins for Zach trade. The Kings, it seems, are the only team that have been tied to Zach that are still maybe out there as a possibility. What do you guys think? Because I'm sitting here saying, where the hell can the Bulls trade Zach at this point?
I've said the Kings from the beginning. I'm still sticking with that. I'm rolling with the Kongs. I still feel like that deal will happen. It might be a 3-team trade. Go down, but I still feel like that's the one that's going to happen. But certain other players have to move off the board for me to be completely confident in it, to find out that Zach LaVine might be the last one at the dance, and you ain't got a dance yet, and the slow songs are on. You better get somebody. So they might go down and get Zach LaVine.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Pistons are still an option. They didn't use all their cap space, so the Bulls would have to take some money back in that deal. But that obviously would be big savings for them. I do think they would require a pick. Like they just did Quentin Grimes for Tim Hardaway Jr. in 3 seconds. Mm-hmm. I think they are in the business of taking picks back. So that could be an option. They're not out of cap space yet, but that's kind of my read on them. I think the Kings are another option. But look, I mean, free agency has kind of fallen in a way that there's just not a lot of good options out there for Zach or DeMar. And somebody's going to have to really want them in order to make that happen. Right now, it doesn't appear to be trending that way. And maybe it just never does. But I do think that at a certain point, somebody's going to get interested, whether it happens in the season or beforehand. It's crazy to me that like the lack of foresight from some of these opposing GMs, like they're trying to give Zach LaVine away. He is going to be better than not playing. Yeah. So his value will go up. I just don't understand, even as a buy low opportunity for free. I mean, that just doesn't really make sense to me. So clearly there's more going around there that we don't know about, but it does feel like at a certain point, something needed to have broken right in terms of where guys ended up. KCP going to the Magic right away probably takes them out of consideration for Zach. There needed to be an opening. And with, the Clippers getting Derek Jones and Batum, it just doesn't really feel like there are a lot of options out there for either of those teams. And obviously we heard the report that the Warriors were turning down Wiggins and Chris Paul for Zach and a pick. So who knows if that's true. But it just doesn't really feel like there are a lot of great options out there for either of those guys. But that doesn't mean that can't change in a week's time when some of these other dominoes have fallen.
Come on, Kongs. Real quick, Steven, just a couple from the comment section, people. We got a couple minutes left.
Yeah, Cedric Anthony wants to know who's the backup center. I'm assuming this is
Matt Peck.
Vooch is. Well, yeah, he's pretty tall.
Okay.
If Vooch is gone, and it's Sanogo, that's the only other guy on the roster with Jalen Smith now.
Yeah.
You have to get somebody else. Is there no scenario that you go into the season without adding another center through trade or free agency?
Theoretically, you have to get someone else because of the restricted free agency of Sanogo. But I think he'll be back on the team for sure. But, yeah, I just think it's Sanogo, bro. I really do. I think it's just going to be Smith and Sanogo, and we'll see what happens with Vooch.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they get a center back for LaVine or for DeRozan. That's an option. Maybe they flip Vooch into something else. I would be fine with Sanogo on a two-way. I don't really think you need to carry 3 centers on your roster in today's day and age.
Agreed.
If you need to play small with Patrick at the 5 from time to time, that's probably okay. But the Bulls are building a bigger, longer team, right?
Yeah.
You got Giddey is 6'8", you got Patrick who's 6'8", you got Buzelis who's 6'9". Those guys can play together, and with Patrick's rim protection, with Buzelis' rim protection, hopefully that does offer you some versatility to be able to play multiple styles.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of like carrying a third catcher, you just bring that guy up when you need to, when somebody's out for a day or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how you use Sanogo. But I just don't really see a need to invest a bunch of assets into that position when you've already got Vooch, who's an Iron Man, and you just brought in Jalen Smith.
Steven, just give me one more question.
Carlito's Way wants to know, is an extension for Giddey next, or will he have to wait until next offseason? When do you think that happens?
Wait. I mean, I would prefer that they wait and see with him. I do not see a scenario where Giddey has some incredibly impressive borderline all-star kind of season or most improved player kind of season in 24-25 that causes the Bulls to shoot themselves in the foot by not getting that extension done now. And he said himself, I'm not worried about it. We'll see how it plays out, but an extension is not at the forefront of his mind. It's working on his game, getting better, and embracing this fresh start. So that if that's how Giddey sees it, that's how I, as a Bulls fan, am choosing to see it too.
So Giddey is playing with Australia in the Olympics this summer. So he is obviously not in Chicago at this point. That doesn't mean his agent can't still talk with AK. They could, in theory, get something done. To your point, Matt, he did come in and say when we spoke to him at media availability, he was saying we wanted, or when I was with OKC, everything was about we want to get something done. We want to get an extension done. Extension. Now that he gets moved, that's not really at the forefront of his mind. I think it makes sense for him to try to wait because I think he's going to put up some really big numbers on the Bulls next year. He's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. DeMar and Zach are gone. He's going to be putting up stats, and I think that's going to cost the Bulls a lot of extra money. So I actually think it would be the other way. If you can get him a contract that's in the same range, probably a little bit more than what you gave Patrick, 5-110, 5-100, I'd feel really good about that. But if it's going to cost you 5-125, 5-135, 5-150, of course, at that point, you rather just play it out and make sure that you are paying for what you're getting. And so I think there's a risk with it. I think that's why this trade had its downsides. But if they could get something good done now, I think that would be better because I do think Giddey's going to put up some really big numbers next year.
Okay. Well, that's going to do it for this show. We will be back tomorrow talking more Bulls with you guys. Come join us. Come and hang out. Make sure you're hitting that like button, man. Get your thumbs up going. For my man, Matt Peck. For my main man, Will to Go Gottlieb. For my main man, Steven over there. I am Big Dave. Y'all be like Matt Peck. Chill out. Enjoy your summits, y'all. We'll see y'all tomorrow. We out. Peace. Love.
We all silly like the mayor.